got my own stopwatch as well. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much for being here as well. Really good to meet you all. My name is Steve Spittle from the Satellite Applications Catapult. I lead one of our missions around Resilient Earth. And when I was given this kind of challenge from Seppi and the team, I was thinking, what does 10 to 20 years look like? That's quite a long period of time, especially if you put that out to 30 years. And so I've gone from this from a space angle particularly. I don't think of myself as a cartographer, more of a space nerd within this arena. And I was particularly thinking, okay, well, let's have a look back at space. How long has space been around, and how can I use that then to extrapolate out what the future might then look like? And for me, space and space remote sensing has particularly been there to really reduce that friction between the real world and the decision that's going on. And there's been a couple of core drivers that's created this. So we go back to the 1960s, the Cold War. There was a drive to have more information. We started with analog. We started with film inside of our satellites that then got deposited, and we had planes with large nets that then picked that up. We then go forward about sort of 30 years or so to the 90s and the millennia. What do we have there? Well, we then started to have much more repeat observations. It was digitized. It was predominantly based in institutional-based remote sensing, and also then really started to see some of the larger private space sector coming out as well, but again, very much anchored within the defense and security world. Where are we today? Well, actually, we have a lot more persistence, a lot more data going around today. We also have a lot more analytics as well that I'll talk about. But this is then more about getting access to space for everyone, and everyone has now the ability to actually have their own assets up there, and that's really interesting. That changes the dynamics of the world around us, especially from a space perspective. So if we set that context today, that's what 60 years of innovation has looked like within the space sector. What are the trends that we're seeing today? Well, the first one is we're increasing the amount of sensors that are up there, so richer data, whether that's buzzwords around hyperspectral, whether that's thermal, whether that's, for example, having multi-sensor conditions where you've got optical sensors with radar sensors on the same platform. We saw yesterday a company getting investment for hosted sensors, so it's companies that now own satellites up in space and go, you know what, this month you can have this sensor and next month you can have that sensor. So again, some really interesting things coming up there. An increase in persistence, we've seen that a lot coming through. Actually, what does that mean as well? Well, it means that we're not now just limited to space, but we have high-altitude platforms. We have a continuity of space that's going towards UAVs as well. We're also looking at how we integrate things like Internet of Things alongside the space data. We've become less space-centric, which I think is a positive thing, to be honest with you. And then, of course, we've got increased intelligence, and as Seppi said, you know, there's going to be some AI Tourette's going forward, I'm sure, today, but for us as well, what does that mean? It means that we're really focusing on the trust of the data. So if you're going to give the answer as X, how do we get to X? So particularly within the end users today, we're seeing them go, how did you get to that answer? Don't just give us a black box. And that will be a continuing trend going out to the future. But what's important from all of this is that actually a lot of this is driven today less about nerds like ourselves here, but much more about the demand from the client side. And that is exciting. And particularly, the client doesn't come to us and go, Steve, what I really need today is a high-resolution multispectral satellite image. What they go is, what I need to understand is, how do I make sure I de-risk the decisions that I'm making today? And it goes back to that piece that we said at the beginning, which is about reducing the real world around us to the decision. So where does that then place us, importantly, for the future? So for me, what I've seen is that there will always be a need for maps, but actually that's becoming a bit more of the kind of smaller use case. The larger use case here, the sort of ubiquitous use of geospatial data is actually its use within the kind of ambience around us. It becomes much less about the map and much more about the signals that sit behind them, the alerts, making sure that this data is contextualized and personalized for yourself. And more importantly as well, not just understanding what the data is saying today based on the instruments that are giving this information, but what does it mean for me tomorrow? And a lot of this won't come through a map that we've had historically within a sort of room or a cartographic kind of projection or anything like this. It'll be much more about, okay, well, look, I want to cut my grass next week. Well, I don't need to understand what the weather's doing because it's going to tell me that. I don't need to even understand necessarily or look out the window because the satellite's now telling me that my grass is so productive, or whatever it happens to be, that I should be doing the sweet spot of doing that within, not this week, thank God, but next week, or whatever it happens to be. So you don't need to pick up a map. It's going to come to you, and it's going to understand what you are doing. And again, this is important, I think, because that really loses that last bit of friction from the real world to decision, which is a human opening up the map. I see that as being the friction point at the moment. And if that can be removed, then again, this becomes really seamless. So I'm there within 5.5 minutes. I could go on about this for a long time and a lot more about a lot of the trends from space, but yeah, very happy to start the conversation and be the first one. In brackets, thought I was the last.
Brilliant. Thank you, Steve. Thank you very much.